Hello everybody, what is up? Cobra here with a new series coming to my channel. This is a in-depth analysis of my new game, the Powder Keg 1914, a game that has been in the makings for about 6 years now, and it is what I have dubbed the most in-depth, fun, and historically representative game of World War One out there. World War One is the study of it is a huge part of my life. I've loved history and especially World War One history, early 19th century up until the 1920s. I also like World War Two. I play Global War 36. I love that game. Community and everything is great. But I have always wanted a truly global scale Axis and Allies style game, strategic board game that is fun for everybody and portrays the complex diplomacy and the chaos that was World War One. And that is what I have here. Now, I've been working on it for a while, and many of you have seen the map before, and I want these videos in this series to be pretty punchy, quick, and just show you guys how this game works and gets you guys excited for when you will be able to purchase this game. This map was actually sent to me for free as a test version of it, so I am looking at getting it sold, hopefully in the next couple months. Now, I always say the next couple months with these games, and it's very difficult to get these games working, especially when it's just me. I've had to play test this a bunch of times, not only making the map, which took me a year, but also the rule book that has been being written by me, trying to get everything down into a form that is not only helpful for people like me who have actually played the game, but more importantly, people who have never played the game and need to know how to play, because this is such a new game and also using such new rules. People that played Axis and Allies before and Global War and even Risk, which I know are many people of this channel, people that have played those games, they will find this game possessing a lot of traits that are similar, but also a lot that are different. Somebody that plays Axis and Allies can't just, come over here and play this game and know how everything works. It's not just a reskin of an Axis and Allies style strategic board game. Pieces like, infantry, tanks, stuff like that will seem similar, but things like diplomacy, a brand new diceless combat system, and the way movement works in this game are all different, borrowed from other games and custom concepts that have been developed for this game by me for you guys to play. So I hope this video serves as a little introduction to the game, and basically not too much is going to be going down in terms of the gameplay. I just wanted to talk to you guys about who you will be playing as in this game, who you will be representing, and how you will use that power to blaze forth and win your side victory in the Great War. Now, my current setup, you can see that I don't have the full map extended. Right now I just have Europe going on, and that will also come into play later in terms of the playability of this game and the fact that you don't always need the whole entire map, but also just because for the concepts that I will be bringing up in this series, much of it will be in Europe, and when I need the Pacific side of the board, I will unroll that and show it to you guys for not only to show it off, but also maybe to explore some concepts. But for the different powers of the game, which is what this video is about, not only an introduction, but kind of going into the actual playable nations of this game. Now, as you can see here for Europe, we have the British Empire. Now, the British Empire, as you can see, represents the British Isles, Ireland, as well as all of their territories across the globe. So you can see in Africa, you've got a ton of red, same with the British Raj over there in India, as well as Australia, which is off map, and currently Canada, which is below the camera right now. And basically the British function a lot like other Axis and Allies style games where they control all these possessions across the world, and it's their job to try and protect all of those and exert power. They are probably the most powerful of all the nations, mainly in terms of the amount of territory they hold, and the fleets that protect those territories, the fleets that can be that can be positioned across the globe to not only do stuff like box in Germany here in the North Sea, but also take German possessions abroad and threaten the other central powered nations such as Austria-Hungary and possibly nations like Japan, the Ottoman Empire, and Italy. Um, we also have France here next on the block. You can see that France is, as we get a little closer, the one of the biggest nations on the board in terms of their scale and how big they're blown up. And I'll just move this round. Those are just from HBG. But France is massive, and that is mainly because I wouldn't say majority of the fighting. I would almost, in this game, there is definitely a lot of fighting that goes on across the globe. But I would say the biggest actions, the biggest stacks of units and giant armies you'll be commanding are right here on the Western Front, in the territories on the French and German border, along with Belgium especially. So France, of course, in this game is predominantly a land-based power. They will mainly be in charge of holding back the German army in the east of their country, as well as protecting the north of their country and allowing for British reinforcements to arrive. Because France is definitely a powerful nation, especially with the armies that they command in the beginning of the game. They are an even match for Germany. But if Germany devotes the majority of their economy towards crushing France, France will definitely need a hand when it comes to fighting back the Germans. Especially if the French want to, sorry about that, make some advances into Germany or even Belgium. They are really going to want those reinforcements from Britain to shore up their lines of defense. Another prominent nation of this game is America, and you can see that on this map, America is one large nation. It's not split, such as other Axis and Allies and Global War games. And that is basically because of the role America plays in this game. In Axis and Allies and World War II style games, a split America works because the Pacific side of America can focus on the Japanese in the Pacific Ocean, and the East Coast can focus on sending reinforcements to Europe. Whereas in this game, you don't have the split per se. While nations like the Japanese could join the Central Powers, forcing America to possibly send some ships or troops to the Pacific Front, the majority of America's fighting is either going to be sending troops into Europe, as well as possible actions in the northern North American region, not only when it comes down to different styles of game modes, so that includes stuff like a possible Confederate States of America Harry Turtledove expansion for this game that I already have in the works. It was a project of mine to try to make a global style game work with that. So that would involve another nation taking up half of America. Other versions of the game where America can go to war with the British Commonwealth, meaning that they would be fighting across the northern border with Canada, and the large possibility in World War I that the Americans either have to invade Mexico or are invaded by a Central Powers leaning Mexico. So you can see that the American homogeneous kind of country here helps a lot in terms of the playability of this game when it comes to North America. Because if, say, America was being invaded by Mexico, it would be a little more difficult to have half of Mexico and America split on two sides of the map and have it be one continuous front line. In this case, the Pacific Ocean is split right here, east of the international date line, and that basically is kind of an unimportant region of the world, I would say, during this game. Of course, ships can move across it, but you're not going to be setting up forces to have a showdown across these two regions of the map. So in this case, America is here to exert force in North America, send forces to Europe if they choose to join the Allies, and also intervene in places like the Caribbean, which are a hotbed of tensions in regards to nations trying to break away from the sway of American politics. Another nation in this game that starts the game as a playable nation is Austria-Hungary, the people or the nation that started this war. They are, of course, at war with the Serbians down south and and also the Montenegrins. Now, you can see that in this game, Serbia and the Balkans itself is a compilation of many countries, territories, and terrains, making them a difficult target for the Austrians to advance in. Now, that means the Austrians still have a chance of being a predominant power in this game. I've had playtests where the Austrians are able to crush the Serbians, and times when the Serbians end up marching on Vienna and Budapest. So, definitely a lot for the Austrians. Now, they are not a colonial power, and their efforts will mainly be focused on crushing Serbia and ending that threat in the south, trying to survive the Russian onslaught, or maybe even succeeding and pushing into the Ukraine basin, and hopefully holding back the Italians, or even making sure the Italians join the Central Powers. Now, the last playable nation that starts the game at war is the Russian Empire. And you can see here that the Russians, in their massive domain, spread off the map into the Pacific region. But you can see that in Europe, the Russians have a huge border that stretches from Finland all the way down to the Ottoman Empire. So in the early game, the Russians definitely have to focus on defending this huge front line and using their wide, expansive nation as well as geographical features to hold off the possibly superior Central Alliance forces. Russia has probably the most cities in this game, or as they're called in this game, fortified zones, and they represent fortresses and city centers that are difficult to attack, and you can see they are represented by circles here. Russia also has an extensive expanse of rivers in this game. You can see here that not the Danube. I'm forgetting my geography right now, but the rivers of Russia are a great asset to them, and you can see here that basically the Russians can fortify along these rivers. You can see that Poland is basically defended by a river, so if the Russians were to hold these territories and fall back out of Poland, they have a nice strong river to hold the line in this territory. You can also see that the Russians have an extensive network of minefields in the Baltic region to stymie the German fleets, which are definitely superior to them in pretty much all regards. And so you can see here that the island of Smyrna is definitely a powerful asset for the Russians to hold in terms of keeping control over Riga and Petrograd. So this game is also a game of diplomacy, and because of that, there are other major nations, such as the Ottoman Empire down here, which, as many of you know, during the war was a part of the Central Alliance, but in this game, diplomacy allows for the Ottomans to stay neutral, join the Central Alliance as they did historically, or even join the Allies, which is probably unlikely, but it could definitely happen and would be really interesting to see. Probably a death note for the Austro-Hungarians, considering another major power contending with them in the Balkans. But the Ottomans play a powerful role if they can be aligned by the Central Alliance, as they have a lot of victory objectives down there. So basically, the Ottoman Empire joining the war means that the Central Alliance have a lot of cushion room in terms of their ability to win the game. But with so many cities also makes for a lot of morale to be lost if those cities are conquered. And morale plays another big role in this game, where territories and armies are not just assets to be spent and land to be handed over to your competitors. Morale basically means that by losing armies, By making poor decisions such as abandoning a major city, you could be losing the game because your armies decide not to fight for you anymore because you have lost too much to gain their support. So I think that for this little ramble about the major countries that are playable in the early game, I hope you guys have been informed and excited about how this game will work and the future videos I plan on putting out. The next video in this series will probably have to be about the setup of the game. I'll definitely be making videos in consecutive order, so this video kind of represents you unrolling the map and checking out the different nations, and the next video will have to be about the setup and maybe even terrain rules. So I'll see you in the next one, and I hope you enjoyed this little video. Cobra, out.